Hey everyone, I got something kind of special to do today. It's going to be a little bit interesting. Some texturing. This is a little dude I made a while ago. It's not anything particularly special. I just quickly did some line work over him. The texture right now looks like this. I'm going to just show you some things you can do with AO, ambient occlusion, which aren't totally obvious straight off the bat. So the ambient occlusion is on the bottom layer underneath this white layer. So I'm just going to save that out real quick and show you what it looks like on the model. If it will hot load, there he goes. You can see it's got some shading, and that's kind of cool. I mean, you can just drop the AO onto the model and just roll with that. That works sometimes. The other thing to check is when you're texturing, probably turn on your self-illumination to full, so that you can just look at the texture and not any shading interfering with it, other than what's baked into the texture. But yeah, that's the simplest way you can use AO, just straight up as it is. There's a little bit of angular stuff going on here because of just how low poly it is. The simple way to fix that is I'm just going to copy this layer and do a Gaussian blur on it. I'm just going to crank it up a little bit until those angular artifacts go away, and hit save on that. And that's what it looks like now. It's a little bit smoother. So that's just basic AO multiplied straight in. This isn't always the best thing. This is it's quite mathematical and not particularly interesting or organic. So I'm going to show you how to sort of mix in some organic detail with it. I've got this texture here that I just googled. You could take your own photos, you could Google them, doesn't matter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paste this in on top of the AO, and that scale is pretty huge at the moment, so I'm going to scale that boy down to about that. Apply. Then I'm going to set that to overlay, and you can see that it's sort of mixing with the AO and creating some different details and stuff. Then on top of all that, I'm going to do an adjustment layer for levels, so I can control the outcome, sort of. You can really get a good grasp of what's going on that way. You can sort of control what's shaded and what's not. So if I went like this, I could go quite hard on the shading. I could get different things happening. So if I save that and see how that looks on the little character. I mean, the shading's obviously really dark, but you could use this kind of thing as like a mask for rust. If you would, for some reason, wanted to make this guy rusty, obviously you would do that on a different kind of model. But like dirt buildup, it just adds a little bit of organic detail into the shading. So you can basically modulate your AO by pretty much any image above it. And I guess the next thing to go into is I'm just gonna put these into a group and turn them off. So we're going to start again with a different texture. There's ways that are sort of less obvious at the start to use the AO. So I'm going to do some illustrative stuff now. I've got some this is Googled as well, but you could make your own pretty easily. It's just a texture of some scribbled grey lead, I guess, or pencil of some kind. I'm going to drop that in there, and I'll actually rotate that so that the strokes are going 90 degrees to where they are at the moment. I'm going to scale it a little bit because the texture is obviously going to show up at the scale that it's at in the window. And obviously this isn't taking up the whole texture now, so I've got to repair that a little bit. I'm just going to grab my clone stamp tool, alt click, and just sort of extend that down to the rest of the image. Okay, so overlay. It's sort of mixing now. The shadowed parts in the AO look like they're kind of scribbled on. I'm going to make a copy of the AO just to get a bit of control over the levels, and go into levels editing on the AO layer. Maybe drag these up a little bit. Drag this one up a tiny bit so I still get some of the texture in there, because if it's completely black it doesn't mix. It only mixes if it's not completely black. And then, like with the last one, I'm going to drop a levels layer layer adjustment on top of the final effect, and drag this down a little bit. Drag it, just sort of, you can just play with this, and it's really sort of just go by feel until you've got something that you kind of like. Save that and see how that looks on the model. That's got a kind of sketchy look. I'm going to change that a little bit and then do something else, which is kind of cool. I want to show. That's fine by me. I'm just going to drag this group that we made out of the way. Make a new group for these ones. Get them in there. I'm going to drop in another levels layer. This is the layer that my line works on, so I'm going to drag that down into that group too. So I'm going to make a new adjustment layer, and I'm going to do a gradient map. And what this does is we can map dark levels to one color and light levels to another, and everything else is going to be in between. So we've got a whole bunch of gradients by default. One of them is red into green, purple into orange. They go through all kinds of different stuff. So if we were just to pick one of these default ones as an example, I mean, they're all a little bit silly to be honest. I'll pick this one because that looks kind of cool. Bit of a crazy looking guy. So that gradient map just maps all the darks to green and all the lights to purple. So I'm just going to save that. I mean, sorry, all the lights to orange, and complete black is purple. So we'll see how that looks on our guy. That's kind of, I mean, it looks completely wacky, but there are some cases where, you know, you might use something like that. Another example real quick is we can use a different sort of rendering style. I'll just duplicate this whole group as it is. Okay, and I've got this image, which is like some texture, I guess, sort of hatched. And instead of that layer in there, I'll just drop this one in. And I'll set that to overlay. The scale's way off right now, so I'm going to scale it right down. What looks cool? That looks cool. And then of course this one doesn't reach all the way across the image because it's quite a small little texture. And again, obviously this is from Google, but you could draw your own, you could photograph any object that you've got lying around, you could scan in a halftone pattern or anything like that. I'm going to grab my layers level and really sort of bring this, and then just for the sake of it, I'll change this a little bit. I'll go for a more, you double click these to edit them. You can remap these colors to whatever you want. Right, pick that one, and maybe that one. That's kind of cool. So I'll just go save on that and see how that looks. So that's like another style of rendering on this guy, which looks kind of neat. If I wanted to add something else to it, I could just grab this image again and just drop that on top of it all. Scale that down a little bit because it's a little bit crazy. Maybe back it off a little bit, and I'm going to darken it a little bit too. Go save on that, and it'll load up. Just gives it a little bit of texture, and you can develop all kinds of interesting sort of styles from this. You could then go and grab your AO again and drop that back on top, multiply it, scale it down a little bit just so you get a little bit of darkening. Maybe levels edit that, pull some of the shading out of it, then go save and see how it looks. Always check on the actual model because that's what matters at the end of the day. So yeah, that's hopefully you're getting some ideas. As I said, if something's completely black, it's not going to blend. So you can fix that kind of thing by going into your AO, chuck a levels adjustment layer on top of the AO, and then you can drag this up. So the minimum is no longer going to be completely black, or the minimum level of brightness. Do some clone stamping on there, save it, and then we'll get some shading in here, which is kind of neat. So yeah, hopefully that will spark some ideas in your head how you can sort of mask things off. and use your AO not necessarily just straight up on its own. It can be you can modulate it by a whole bunch of different textures and things to get different effects happening. This, you know, might want this to be a little bit like you might want really hard lines finishing there, because then if you have quite a short range between these levels, you get like sort of edges to all these lines, whereas if you drag it out, it'll sort of fade out. There's all kinds of stuff you can do just with levels, layers and gradient layers and all that kind of stuff. So hopefully that helps you think about different ways you can use AO. It's a bit of a abstract sort of conceptual thing, but see what you come up with. I'm interested to get a look at it all. Okay, bye.